Tonight, I wanted to share my story, braiding our voices, one Indigenous parent's educational journey through an Indigenous story work model, because we teach our children through storytelling, and it's the responsibility to take that and carry it forward in the next generation. As Dr. Joanne Archibald says, story work brings responsibility. The speaker to speak her truth and be honest, and for the audience to take something away. So picture this. You're an Indigenous parent, me, and you walk into the school halls of your child's school nervously with the issues that your children have brought forward and the concerns that you have. You're the only parent in the classroom or in the meetings at PACs, district PACs, school boards, even chief and council meetings that look like me. And what I learned while navigating all of that is that it's a mess. There's a reason that Indigenous families and parents like myself and others don't know how to work with me when I had those questions and concerns, was because it's all tangled up. It's all mixed together. And I didn't know why. The school didn't know why. The administrators didn't know why. And my own education department didn't know why. Well, I know the answer now. After going to school, asking all the different schools and administrators and other parents in that journey, is because First Nations Indigenous parents are faced with a tangled mess that has been there since residential school children and day school children were transitioned into the public school system. There has been no framework, no policy, and no procedure put in place. So nobody knows how to support Indigenous families and parents who are navigating that. It's nobody's fault, but it is a question that was still on my mind. Why? Why in 2025, with all of the procedures, all of the policies, from UNDRIP, DRIPA, local education agreements, were people still not sure how to support Indigenous parents who wanted to advocate on behalf of their children? I realized it was nobody's fault. It was something that we've all inherited since 50 years ago. But that is what shifted me into going from being an advocate to an activist. I wanted to understand why, so that I could do better and help others to navigate it. I was lucky that my parents' role models, specifically my mom, at our kitchen table, would listen to my concerns and my needs as a student in the halls and schools with issues that I was coming up with. And when she heard my concerns and my needs, she modeled for me that protecting your children and hearing their concerns and taking it a step forward and going and speaking to those teachers or administrators, she modeled for me how brave she was and the risks she took, because her generation and my family's generation, like her, all attended residential schools or day schools. And the residential legacy really created an atmosphere where children were afraid to speak up, afraid to ask questions, afraid to be brave. I was very lucky that my mom, with little education, little language, was able to be brave, go to those same meetings, sit at those same tables, and advocate for me. As that, I became a mother a few years later, well, many years later. I made a promise to myself after seeing how my mom advocated for me that I would do the same for my children. But I wanted to take it a step further. I wanted to make sure that my children didn't feel like me when they were at school, too afraid to ask questions, too afraid to share their voice and speak up on their behalf. I wanted to role model for them at our kitchen table, your voice matters, and your needs I will take and be brave and go seek answers if you can't. I also taught them this phrase with all of my 4 children. When in doubt, check it out. If you don't know something, no question is too silly, no concern is too trivial. If you don't have the answers, go ask somebody, ask for help. And it was even in this, when I was sitting as a district PAC, as an Indigenous representative, I met a wonderful ally when I couldn't get busing for my children and there was a policy change in the school district. Nobody wanted to help me, but I followed this phrase, when in doubt, check it out. So I followed up, spoke up, took my concerns through the PACs, the district PACs, to the school board, even to my own chief and council. And I was lucky enough, I learned a valuable lesson that when allies and others believed in me and saw that there was a need, they walked with me to find those answers and solutions together. Now, I have realized when I was doing my learning through my master's and now in my doctorate, that with that 50-year legacy of us inheriting the mess, it's nobody's fault that we don't have an infrastructure, a policy, or a procedure. We're all learning this together. And because of that, it helped drive me to want to do with my schooling and with my doctorate. Wouldn't it be great if we could create that framework now, moving forward? The truth is, in 1972, the National Indian Brotherhood created a landmark policy that said, in 1972, Indian control of Indian education. That one document informed me that this isn't a new problem or a new issue. That Indigenous parents and leaders back in that day fought the Canadian government to figure out how can we create a better system, a better education for our Indigenous children. And they also said that Indigenous parents were the best natural educators for their children. What that means is, as mothers, we know best for our children. We know how they learn. We know their needs. So why is it, even in the framework, today in 2025, no one knows how to work with us as parents, Indigenous parents in the system? What I learned also from that document and others is that for First Nations Indigenous families, there are 3 strands. It is true. Indigenous parents and children, we are still under the Federal Indian Act system, and that controls and dictates how our education procedures and policies look. So here we have 3 strands, and to me this is where we can find the solutions. One strand is the parent, one strand is the school, and one strand is the federal government. If we could sort them out from the mess that we saw at the first slide and strand them together and create policies that help parents, staff, and administration, just think of how strong and braided the braid would be. My hope is, as an educator, but also as a mother, that I inherited from my mom how much she advocated and she carried it forward to me. I picked it up, and it's my intention that when I turn it over to my daughter, who's on the far right, that the system will be better for her. I want to figure this out so that the next generation of parents won't have to experience the same things that I went through. The hope and goal is that once I hope to figure that out, and I can work with those 3 strands, and we can sit down and create the framework, think how strong a braid could be. Think how strong our education for Indigenous students and parents could be. Because at the end of the day, Indigenous parents know how to best support their children. Thank you.